Welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. My name is Aaron Kavanagh and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. Our interviews are mainly recorded to be transcribed, but every now and again we release the audio in a series we call Post-Burnout.com interviews. If you enjoy what we do, be sure to subscribe. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, we speak with Irish-Australian soul pop artist Katie. She talks about her latest single, Fickle Friend, her background as a classical musician, the trouble she has had while creating her new EP, Pixels, which is expected next year, residing in Leeds, working with producer Dave Skelton, how her peripatetic nature has influenced her music, the background to her name, and more. Yeah, so the first thing I just wanted to ask quite simply was just how'd you kind of get into music yourself? I mean, I assume it would be kind of at a young age, considering, what you studied later on in life.
Yeah, I started very young in classical music. So I did piano from 4 and violin, but I did give that up later on because I really wanted to study classical singing, and I just didn't have time for loads and loads of instruments at the same time. So I basically did classical music until I was 18, and just kind of only when I was like 17 started exploring songwriting. And that's kind of why I decided to jump into popular music, because I just really loved writing music. And classical is very much, perfectionism and, don't really go beyond the lines of the piece, So I just, to explore that creativity, I had to kind of leave classical music behind. But I still love it and I still enjoy listening. So, and it definitely gave me a very strong foundation.
What were you actually listening to yourself then in terms of popular music?
In terms of popular music, I really love Sammy Ray and the Friends, and kind of similar music to that, which is like a bit funky and some pop. But really, it's kind of every week I'm listening to something new. But that is something I return to a lot. Anything that's kind of funk or blues or jazz, kind of run into something like that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I think that kind of resonates actually in your own music. And yeah, I was like, as someone with a foundation in classical music, but also kind of a love and appreciation of kind of pop and jazz and kind of like the popular music of the 20th century, let's say. I was wondering how you kind of like marry those two.
I mean, especially when working with other musicians, the classical background is really handy, because I can kind of just be like, oh yeah, this diminished chord, or go into this or that, if they have a similar background and can understand what I'm on about.
Yeah.
Some people do just train from ear, and so it's a completely different experience working with them, but still very much fun because you just think differently. I just think I understood how music works in kind of like instrument relationships, and reading music can be really handy for just learning something quickly. And if it's transcribed to a different key, you still can use, like, especially in singing, just the same sheet music, because you're not the underlying music, so you just change with it.
So when it comes to the actual music, the instrumentation of your music, I mean, do you have like, is that fully written by you? Like that's
It sometimes depends on the song. Like, I'll definitely have the full structure and chord structure of it that I want, but and in this song I did actually come up with the bass riff and stuff, and the chords for the verses and all of that. But I think guitarists will know a bit more of what to do in the guitar than I will, because I don't play. So I'm like, this is general chords, this is kind of what I'm looking for. And then we just kind of work it out from there and play around with a few different ideas. I really like it to be collaborative. I don't kind of like to be leaving no room for their creativity in the process as well.
Yeah. Is it kind of session musicians you'd be working with, or is there like a core like band?
So there was a core band until very recently. People just kind of like, that was from university, and people have kind of moved away and stuff since then, so it's been harder to keep that one alive. But for this song, that is what I had, and we all just kind of jammed in a session and got most of the recordings in that session. So it's just how it is, really. Unfortunately, you don't always get to stay together with the ones you like working with. So
do you find it easy then to adapt when you have to work with new musicians, or
Yeah, I honestly would work with every single person that I could work with.
Yeah.
Because because everyone's different, everyone has new ideas and ways of thinking about the relationship, you know, of the song, and, you know, even lyrics to music and all of that kind of thing. So I just, you know, you work with someone new, say they're like a jazz pianist, they're going to bring a different element into the song than, you know, like a, you know, a pop keys guy, you know. So you can just find new sounds and all of that to add into your music. And so if you do branch out, I think it's a bit better, like if you want to explore new sounds and things, you know.
And actually, like, since you've been, I guess, kind of like hanging around musicians and working with different musicians, I mean, how do you feel that your, I guess your kind of repertoire has expanded?
Oh yeah. I mean, before uni, like, because a lot of my experience of different genres and stuff would be from uni, because you just like change bands all the time. I even did metal for like 2 weeks,
Oh,
which
really?
is really not my thing. I can't scream or any of that stuff, but it was still fun for the 2 weeks to to look at it. But oh, I've lost my mind. I was just remembering that.
It was yeah, do you find like hanging around with new musicians expand your repertoire?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've listened to so many different styles of music just from meeting new people, and I'm always going, you know, oh, you know, what's your favorite band at the moment? Or because there's so many new people coming up. I mean, I'm really bad for just listening to like 20th century music, you know, and not really exploring so much the new stuff. So I actually made a point to do that recently enough, and I found loads that I love, like Couch, Sammy Ray. God, I could go on, but that would be a very long list, I think, so I'll stop there. But I just think I can't help but look at other genres, because it all kind of relates to one another anyway. Like even metal is actually like, if you just took the chords and not how it's played, like it's a lot of jazz chords are thrown in there. You know, explore it all, see what you can take, use in your own music, because at the end of the day, you know, everyone just does that. Everything you listen to is in your own music. So, you know.
Let's talk about your new single then, Fickle Friend. So I think it was kind of I guess I would describe it as like a platonic breakup song. Yeah, I mean, it's very like, there's a lot of like angst, but in a kind of delivered in a very like confident and assured way. I was wondering maybe if you could talk about it a little.
Yeah. So I'd say it's like kind of a boss energy, you know, attitude filled kind of song, but with a pop soul beat. I actually worked with an amazing producer in Galway called Dave Skelton, and he just was fabulous. Like, I really wanted a live sound for the song, and he just understood the whole vision I had and brought it to life, which, you know, I'm really grateful, because it's not always that experience with producers, but he just understood it, you know, and that worked really well. I'd also say, yes, it's very saucy, especially in the chorus. And you know, I think that's cheeky and infectious, and it makes you want to sing along. But yeah, there are elements of that angst, as you said. You know, it's a mixture of vulnerability and anger, and a bit of a, you know, screw it, you know, I'm done with you kind of song.
Sure.
So but I think everyone has that kind of experience in their life, and just singing along makes it, you know, it's just cathartic. I felt so much better, you know, even after writing it, and then just singing along when I feel like it.
So yeah, I mean, like, when it comes to sort of translating your sort of emotions or your experience into music, like, do you ever feel I don't know, like, do you feel confident in kind of exposing certain parts of how you've been feeling to, you know, a public audience? Because I mean, like, your music has been like doing really well. I mean, it's been getting like, you know, thousands and thousands of streams and stuff like that. So, you know, people are listening. So do you ever kind of, does that ever factor in when you're like, I'm going to write about this aspect? Or
I mean, when I was, you know, growing up and stuff, I was very afraid to tell anyone kind of what I was feeling, and I was very much reserved, and, you know, I was uncomfortable in my own skin and all of that. But you know, moving away from home and exploring all of that, you know, I just became comfortable and accepted who I am. And it was kind of that journey. And I you know, I want to be able to share it so other people can kind of come to where I am, and wanting to share my opinion and telling everyone, you know, I'm always saying, you know, be yourself, and unapologetically so, you know, don't let people tell you how to be. And
Absolutely.
if my music can help people do that, then I'm going to be as honest as I can, even if at the time of writing, I find it really hard to share. You know, eventually the song will be finished. I'll start thinking about it in a different manner to how I was writing it. You know, I think in the writing process, you're very much, this is personal. This is all me. And I, you know, it's how I express my feelings. It's how I get it out.
Yeah.
So I don't think about other people when I do that. I just write it, you know.
Absolutely.
And then I'll share it and I'll go, I hope other people can, you know, put their own lives into this song and make it their own and have it be their experience, you know?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I didn't really consider it, was that, like, yeah, when you listen to the song, I mean, I think it is sort of, it's specific, but sort of not so much that like it's alien to people who might want to sort of put their own life experience onto it.
Yeah.
I wonder, is that like actually a conscious thing you when you're writing music to kind of go like, okay, I want to have some room for interpretation here in terms of, or maybe not so much interpretation, more so one's own life lived experience to kind of put on that. Is that something you think about?
It definitely is, because like I don't like to tell people like really what's the meaning behind a song. Like, say for this song, I'd be like, you know, a close friend broke my trust, you know, we don't speak anymore and that's sad. That's how the song came to be. But that's really all the explanation I'm going to give, you know, because if you give too many details, then you kind of ruin it. Like I had that happen to me, an artist full on explain the entire song. And then I went, I didn't think that at all. You know, and then I couldn't not think about it in that way. So I want people to just apply their own meanings, think what they want to think about it, and go from there, you know? Let them tell me what they think it's about. And I'll enjoy hearing all the experiences that they relate to it and how many different meanings can one song have, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then one other thing I wanted to ask you actually was about, if, correct me if I'm wrong, so I think you were born in Australia, raised in Ireland, is that correct? And now live in Leeds.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, how does that kind of, like, those different experiences, those different kind of cultures and upbringings kind of resonate to your music? Or do you even feel there is much difference between Australia, UK and Ireland?
There's actually, I feel like I would know the Irish and UK cultures a little bit better than I would Australian, just because I was very young when we left. And although I have visited and I have family and stuff, it's just not the same as being there all the time. You know, there'll be lingo and slang that I'm like, I don't understand what this is.
Totally.
Although I love some of it, like your drongo. I love it. It's like a great insult.
Yeah. It's very endearing.
Oh, it is. Yeah, they're very sweet.
Yeah.
They're kind of mean without being mean.
Which part of Australia would that be?
Sydney.
Oh,
So,
Sydney. Okay. Yeah.
born in Sydney, and my mum's from Sydney, so I'm full on half and half, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I would say UK and Irish can be very different. Well, I won't say full on UK because I've only been to England. So I'll say England and Ireland can be very different and similar. I feel like because I'm in a hometown of like a small village kind of thing, you know, there's a bit of a, you'll walk down the street, you'll nod at people, you'll smile, you'll say hello, you know, and then when you go to a city, there's just not really so much that. It's just, I think overall a bit friendlier here. We kind of leave people alone to their own life and kind of get by and just like be like, oh, how are you? You know, hope you're well, you know, move on. Whereas I think in England, you just kind of go, like, it's not everywhere, of course, you know, I'm just comparing a city to a village as well. So it's hard. It's not an equal comparison. Although, you know, the history of what happened in Ireland isn't learnt in England. So sometimes they don't really understand why they might get backlash. Which I don't like to go into because I'm like, you know, I'm not here to be the historical, you know, I didn't really study beyond, you know, what I had to. But it's just interesting that they don't really know that history. So sometimes I feel like that can come into play without you necessarily wanting it to, you know, and I do find that conflict really interesting to also analyze and write about. Like I went up to Derry in Northern Ireland, and it was just so different from Dublin and Wicklow. You know, they had flags painted on all the curbways and, you know, poles and everything. And I'm going, you know, it doesn't feel as safe. But then you just walk down the street and it's just, you know, one country under the flag. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
I mean, I actually really enjoyed my time there, but it was very different to what I'm used to. But that's kind of everywhere. It's a whole different culture. And even though they're similar, there's enough differences,
Do you think those cultural differences in any way kind of play a part in your art or your artistic outlook, or which maybe I don't know. I mean, everyone's a product of where they're from, and everyone's that's going to influence how we write and how we think about the world and stuff. But yeah, I was wondering for you, do you consciously notice that, or do you think it doesn't really play that much of a factor at all?
I feel like a lot of what I write about can be subconscious. It's at the time it's not necessarily a thought, and then I look back and I go, oh, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say where I've grown up has had a big impact because it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm very descriptive. I like to set the scene and put people in where where it happened. Like I have one lyric in a completely different song, which is like a river flowing backwards, I'm misdirected.
Yeah.
Which I just really enjoy, that kind of imagery thing, which I just think happened because I'm beside mountains and waterfalls and lovely gardens and all that kind of stuff. I see the beauty and I appreciate it. I like to bring that into my songs as well, to just appreciate what's around you.
So were you already in Leeds when you started the KE project?
Yeah. Leeds is basically where it happened because I had only really done classical before I moved to Leeds. And I found guys, musicians that really understood kind of just the journey, exploring all of that and everything. And my university was really good because you could just use the studios whenever you wanted. So you could just experiment, and not worry about paying for hours and hours of studio time and not necessarily have like end result,
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, so the facilities at your uni kind of like helped you, I guess get the kind of project up and running. Do you think like that's a benefit that people who maybe study music at like an academic level have over, say, people who do a self-taught?
I mean, facilities are always a benefit. You can't deny that. If you don't have it, you have to buy it, and that can get very expensive. Too quickly in music.
Absolutely, yeah.
So honestly, that was one of the greatest benefits. It's also the decision that really made me go over there, because there is BIM here, and I thought, BIM is great, but this has floors of practice, and multiple studios and just so many people in different streams to work with, because I was in popular music, but even in that, you had your rock bands, your metal, your punk, all of that. And then there were also like classical, folk, songwriting, and production stream, so you're actively searching for people to work with. And it's almost like a mini professional world, but without, the pressure or the consequences. So for me, I find it really beneficial. And, it was my way to go, but you don't necessarily need it if you can do the self-taught thing. I just never did really. Yeah. So it's hard for me to go imagine that path because I started at 4 doing classical music. It's just completely different.
And then you were talking also about you mentioned earlier working with Dave Skelton. I was wondering how exactly you saw him out then. Was that through I don't know, was he just someone who you stumbled into, or was he someone that you kind of consciously were aware of and wanted to work with, or
I wasn't aware of him actually before. I had started searching basically for a new producer because I was doing my EP project in Leeds, but I just wanted something to be a bit more immediate because that's been taking a while just with some delays and things. So I searched for a new producer and I just came across him, really randomly. I came across him and I started listening to what he's produced and I was going, oh wow, he's low key, but I'm going, he's amazing. Yeah. And then I just sent the song to him and he came back to me very quickly and was going, oh, love this song. I can, certain things that he could see for the song, and I was going, that's exactly what I see for it. And it just straight away, it was going, this is the one. So.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, the music you have is such a full sound. I mean, it's you have guitar, bass, drums, obviously, but you also have sax and keys and so on. Yeah, so I mean, when you're looking for a producer, I imagine you want someone who can kind of I guess really let each instrument shine and kind of come through. And I think like that's a really big factor to your music is hearing. I don't know. It's like it's the kind of specific utilization, I guess, of each instrument, if that makes sense. Like I think when the saxophone kicks in, for example, like that really changes the dynamic of the song. I think you'd probably want a producer who appreciates that, who understands it, and kind of yeah adds to it in the mix. Yeah, I was wondering how you felt like Dave kind of went about that.
I mean, he was great actually because I didn't have a keys player at the time. So he was able to find someone that could just put it together off by himself. And that was Jack Dugan. Oh, I'll get you the name later. I'm terrible with names.
So much.
But his first name was Jack anyway. Yeah. And he was amazing. He did, multi-layers as well. And just like, kind of the exact sound that I wanted, but was finding hard to be like, it's this thing, and he just did it. And I was just like, perfect. He understood it. He just found people that knew what to do. And I was going, that's brilliant. Because I did the bass, guitar, sax, and drums in Leeds, recorded all that there. And then I did the vocals and keys in Ireland.
Yeah.
So, but no, he just got it. And he honestly brought it to life. I mean, like that saxophone, there was a lot of saxophone. It could have turned out very differently. Instead of the guitar solo, there could have been a saxophone solo. It was all kind of going through bits and bops and deciding what worked best. And yeah, I love the little sax because it's very brief in the song, but it's just kind of, I feel like it kicks up the sassiness a little bit. It just jumps into that really nice.
Yeah, and you mentioned you were mentioning an EP there. Was that the Pixels EP you're referring to? Or?
Yes, Pixels, which is either 4 or 5 songs. I haven't quite decided yet. Okay. And it's basically, it's too many delays, unfortunately, with ending uni and people going off and all that stuff. So I might have to find some new musicians, unfortunately. I really didn't want to, but I think I will just to get it going again. It's kind of pictures of moments in your life, which is why I call it Pixels. So you put it all together, because, one of them is called Too Much a Woman. Another one is called 2 Minute Guy. Yeah. Which I don't think I need to describe that any further for you to get what that one.
I think I get it.
I have another one called Phantom Love, Goodbye, Farewell, and oh, I know there's more, but there's so many. But I'm kind of going, how do you release it all without just like offloading all of it onto people? Yeah. But that's the next big project anyway. I might release a single or two before I release that, but that's in the works anyway. And hopefully, 2024, I'll be able to get that out.
Yeah. So if I could just talk a little bit more about Pixels then. So like how long is the actual process been of the production then? Because like I can understand, like I guess you're in the, would it be fair to say are you in the post-production stage now, or are you still in the production stage in some respects?
Oh God. I mean, there was like a demo of the whole thing done 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Which, that was fine, but I wanted to re-record it because unfortunately it didn't work out with that producer. Okay. So decided to re-record the whole thing. Didn't work with the next producer either because he took on the project but didn't have time. Okay. So I had to find a new one again. So that's kind of a year of delays all put together. Then coming into this year, started re-recording it and everything. So it's like half recorded, but then people have gone off and disappeared. So I just have to find new musicians. So, because unfortunately, the people that I was working with let me down a little bit. So I just have to find someone else to work with, which to me is fine because, I'll get something new into the song that wasn't there before, and I'll just keep going. I'd rather look at the positive than all the negatives, because if you do that, you're never going to record the music. You'll be too frustrated and annoyed and all of that. And I love the songs. I think they're really good songs, and I just want people to be able to hear them. So that's how I'm going to 2024, deadline. That's what it's going to be.
Have you ever thought about self-producing? Has that ever been something that you've considered?
It's something I want to work towards. I definitely don't have the skills at the moment.
Okay.
I've only just kind of started looking into Logic and all that. I mean, I've used it a little bit for kind of writing songs and, like piano ideas, because I struggle sometimes with my ideas kind of going, I can't sing this and play this at the same time when it's all too new,
Yeah.
with different rhythms and all of that. So I'll kind of pop it into Logic and then figure out what I want to do on top and all that kind of stuff. So I use it in that way, but it's not enough for a full song, I would say. I don't know enough yet. But
Okay.
yeah, is the key word, because I will get there eventually.
Well, that's perfect. I think I've asked everything I'd like to ask. Yeah, is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up, or?
um, I don't know. I feel like I covered anything. Oh, well, I can say where KT comes from,
Okay.
because it's kind of a funny story.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Basically, I wanted something really personal to me, and I was struggling for a long time to find that. So I just started thinking of like nicknames and everything, and had to think of my dad then, because he's like the king of nicknames for me. Starting with B-Rat for like under 4. And so he's just like very cheekily and lovingly, calling me a brat.
Yeah.
But then I learned to spell.
Yeah.
And I caught on, and the nickname wasn't used so much anymore. But going from there, I was going, that really brings me back to my foundations and my family, thinking of these nicknames. So
Yeah.
once he started using variations of Caitlin, Kate's and Katie and all that kind of stuff, I was like, that will remind me of where I come from for the whole journey, be a base, something to kind of ground me. So I picked KT, using just the letters because I thought it was fun. But it just came from my name, basically, which isn't as exciting end, but I love the whole journey of finding the name.
Actually, one thing I did remember now, I'm just thinking of it now, actually, is when it comes to performing your music live compared to, say, the production thing, yeah, I was wondering how you feel your music translate live, and have people been receptive, I mean, in the live aspect?
Yeah. Oh, I feel really bad about this one, but I was doing a little charity gig a while ago, and it was really low key. Someone was holding the microphone because there wasn't a hand, it was that low key. But just this poor woman's burst out crying in front of me, and I was just going, in one way, as like a person, I was going, oh no, don't cry. But then as the like performer and songwriter, I was like, yes, I got through.
It's the ultimate compliment.
Yeah, it was. I was actually very honored to have made her cry. But I think it's really relatable, my music, and especially, Fickle Friend and that, with the bit of beat and everything, people enjoy dancing to it and having fun with it. And I really try get them to sing along. So I'll spend some time kind of teaching, the chorus or something like that, because people want to sing, they want to be involved in it. They don't just want music at them. They want to be part of the whole thing. So I focus on that, and I think it works anyway.
But imagine that's kind of cool, actually, when you start doing shows and like people are singing along, and you're like, oh wow, people actually are listening to this. It's not just, you know what I mean? And especially, I mean, like in a lot of ways, I think like when you look at the thousands of streams you've got, like in a way, it seems quite abstract when you see like 20,000 or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? We just see a number like that. I think it's more I don't know. I think
when they do it,
absolutely, yeah. Do you find that too?
I mean, it hasn't happened so much yet, but there's been a moment or two where someone will start singing it, and like I wouldn't have taught that bit, and I'm going, oh, it's like, wow, I'm getting through. People are enjoying this, and it's not just me thinking that. They want to listen, they come, because a lot of stuff I do is kind of just free gigs or very low entry fee kind of things, just because I like to get out as much as I can. So I'm not really concentrating on, headline. I just play as much as I can. And that's the goal, because I enjoy it. I want to be out every day if I can be out.
Do you use live sets as a kind of a means of, I don't know, tailoring your direction, in the sense that you can go like, okay, people seem receptive to this, people seem, or you just kind of go like, no, I'm more introspective than that.
I mean, sometimes order of a set definitely can come from that. I think it's annoyingly important in a way.
No, totally.
Because definitely, like when you have slower songs or sad songs, you need to figure out how to move into and out of it and kind of bring up the mood. And like I I enjoy that moment when you can just quiet an entire audience and
Yeah,
like have a pin drop and hear it, for a sad
absolutely.
song, that's what I want. But then the next song, I want to be bringing them out of that. I don't
Yeah.
want people to just be miserable the entire set. So I think it's really important to try out different combinations and see what kind of gets the crowd buzzing the most. Like
Yeah.
when they leave, they're going to chat about it for an hour, you know what I mean? Or is it going to be just like, oh, I'm tired now and I'm a bit sad,
Absolutely. No, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, and then and someone who has a kind of consideration like yourself for the lyrics and for the storytelling, and also for the kind of order, like you were talking
Mhm.
about there. How do you feel about like now that a lot of music has been very it's very soundbitey. It's very like trying to get a hit on Instagram or trying to get a hit on TikTok or something like that. You know what I mean? How do you feel about
Yeah.
that?
I mean, social media is important. It's a really good advertising platform. I feel like I'm not personal enough on it.
Mhm.
So maybe that will help out.
Yeah,
um, I wasn't a fan of social media previously, but I started doing it for my music and I am enjoying it more now. But
yeah,
I don't like to write songs for social media. I like to write them for me and what I feel and what I've seen and all that kind of thing. That's where I come from when I write it. But I also understand why doing it the other way is good, because if something you write, even just a chorus, doesn't really get any good feedback, you're kind of going, okay, well, maybe that's not a chorus. You
yeah,
know what I mean? I think it's a really good songwriting tool in a way. You can figure out what works, what won't work, and maybe not invest your money in a song that won't necessarily do well.
sure.
So I feel like from a business principle, I like it. And
Yeah.
from a creative one, I prefer my own process off of social media.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And this, I really enjoyed this conversation. It was
Me too.
fun. Thank you. And best of
Thank you
luck
very
with
much.
whatever you do next. Like
Uh,
I have no doubt you'll do well.
Thank you very much, Aaron.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We hope you enjoyed and stay tuned for more.